Look, I was born in France. I was attacked multiple times for being a Jew. So I know exactly what that feeling feels like. And I've tried as a child also to hide my Judaism. But I will tell you that I've come to the conclusion that Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks has mentioned time and time again, and that is that the world will respect those who respect themselves, and the world will disrespect those who disrespect themselves. It's true with Judaism, or it's true with any other part of your identity. Sometimes it will upset people. Sometimes it will also provoke people. But at the end of the day, when I am being that full, proud Jew, I'm spreading that light, and sometimes we don't even see the effect of that light. My name is Rabbi Pinchas Allouche, founding rabbi of Congregation Bet Tefillah.
My name is Merlot Tennell. I'm from Chapman University, and my major is public relations and advertising, and I'm a double major with French.
My name is Benny Zabner. I go to Nova Southeastern University, and my major is finance with a minor in economics.
So the first question we wanted to ask was, don't you think it's kind of elitist when the Jewish people call each other the chosen people? And what does that even mean when we say we're the chosen people?
So it's a good question. The question is how you define chosen. Because if you think about the word choice, it's a tricky word. Most choices we make in life are really preferences. True choices are really between two identical things. If I choose an orange over an orange and they are identical both in the look and in their taste, then I've chosen. Okay, most choices are preferences. They are not choices. When God told us that He chose us, it's not that we're better. In fact, He Himself says in the book of Deuteronomy, Lakachat lo goy mikerev goy. God took a nation from other nations, almost saying that maybe you were identical, and therefore this is a choice, not a preference. So when we say that we are the chosen people, we're not saying that we are the better people. We're just different. And what really alludes to is that, yes, we are the same, but we are different in our purpose, different in our roles and our responsibilities. After God made that choice between two identical things, then He gave us those roles and responsibilities, which again did not make us better. It just separated us from the rest.
Why do you think He chose us as a people over the other side of people? Why are we the chosen people and not the other group?
That's the ultimate question. Why do we make a choice of picking one orange over the other when they're exactly identical? That's beyond reason. God chose us because He chose us.
When I was younger, I learned that Hashem went through to the different nations before He gave the Torah to the Jewish people on Har Sinai and asked them if they were to accept the Torah. And each of them saw the mitzvot and declined. And then when He went to the Jewish people, that's when they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. Doesn't this contradict the idea that Hashem chose us? Doesn't it seem like He was just left with no option and decided to go with us?
It's a great question, but in my eyes, it highlights that idea. Why did He go to the other nations if we are better? So they say. But that's the point. We are not better. He had to make that choice. And He went from nation to nation, seeing that they're all identical, but based on our response, not on who we are, based on our response. According to that midrash, He made the decision to give us the Torah, not based on our very identity. We were the same. Goy mikerev goy, as the Torah says again. Nation from among the nations. Didn't say the better nation from the worst nations. He just said nation from among the nations. Orange from among the oranges, to go back to that example. In fact, I would venture to say that there are very, very few real choices we make in life. Most choices we make are really preferences.
So we hear all the time that we're supposed to be an or l'goyim, a light unto the nations. But I feel like this perpetuates anti-Semitism. And also, why should we have the responsibility of taking care of these nations? Why should we worry about the other nations in this way or have that responsibility?
So look, there are multiple answers. Number one, if a light is not a light, it really is a disservice to itself before even being a disservice to others. If I set up a light bulb in my room for it to illuminate and it doesn't work, the light bulb is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, so I'll change it. it's really going against itself. If it wants to exist, then it needs to eliminate. Same with the Jewish people. We were infused with this role. It's not really a choice or a preference that we have. It's really a part of our identity to be a light unto the nations. It's who we are. And if we are not fulfilling that task, the disservice is to ourselves, even much more than it is to the world around us. To use just a simple example, it's like, I play the piano. If I'm in a symphony and I'm playing the piano, and the violin is supposed to be harmonizing with me, but the violin is not playing, or he's playing very badly, then I'll be upset at the violin. Not because the man is bad or the violinist is a terrible person, but because he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Same here. Us being a light unto the nations is really a part of our raison d'être, as they say in French, our reason of being. And us being that light is actually adding light and adding, in many ways, reason to the nations of the world, saying, oh, they are being that violent, they are playing their note, and therefore maybe we should respect them. So it's not something that we can shy away from. It's something that we must own. And the more we own it, the more we also model that ownership to our children, to our students. Imagine you're ashamed of your Judaism. What message are your children going to receive from that? They'll be ashamed too. But if I'm a light, if I own that responsibility, then my children will also be a light. So us being lights is really influencing others so much more than we may even think, and it creates a ripple effect of light that can and will eventually illuminate the world.
What would you say about people who aren't shining their light of Judaism and who are probably like more afraid to be a proud Jew? And are they doing something wrong, or is that still their journey? What do you think about something like that?
Look, I was born in France. I was attacked multiple times for being a Jew. So I know exactly what that feeling feels like. And I've tried as a child also to hide my Judaism. But I will tell you that I've come to the conclusion that Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has mentioned time and time again, and that is that the world will respect those who respect themselves, and the world will disrespect those who disrespect themselves. It's true with Judaism, or it's true with any other part of your identity, right? If I'm a pianist again, and my task is to play the piano, and I'm not doing that, then I'm disrespecting myself. That disrespect will evoke disrespect in others. Others will disrespect me. So I will tell them that if you want to command respect, then be who you are. Be that proud Jew. Because really, that's the only way to ensure that you are respected by others. The other routes simply don't work.
But what do you do when society is not accepting us and society is making us feel bad for being Jewish?
What will Michael Jordan do if he said to himself, well, people are laughing at me? And they did. In high school, he was kicked out of his basketball team twice. Well, people are laughing at me. I can't play basketball. Maybe I shouldn't. And it's a source of shame for me. Then not only would Michael Jordan have lost out, the world would have lost out. Same with the Jew. Yes, people will laugh at us. It happens sometimes in some parts of the world more than in other parts. But if we hide it, it will not only compromise the self, but it will also create this disservice to the world altogether. So there is no other way but to own that Jewishness, to be proud, because then it will evoke not just respect among the nations, but it will also ensure that we are fulfilling the task that we were given by God, and perhaps even our purpose altogether.
But doesn't it come to a certain extent, maybe in today's climate with everything that's going on in the Middle East, where we have to step back and be like, okay, some of these people are not going to listen to us. They're not going to accept our light. Or do we have to just keep trying?
So unfortunately, it seems like anti-Semitism will always exist. In fact, the prophets speak about that. And it's not something that we can completely remedy. But, again, not being that proud Jew will be creating a disservice for ourselves and for the world. And yes, I would say that sometimes it will upset people. Sometimes it will also provoke people. But at the end of the day, when I am being that full proud Jew, I'm spreading that light, and sometimes we don't even see the effect of that light. I will tell you this. I think part of the problem is that many function on the macro level and not on the micro level. When real life, real change actually begins on the micro level. Some people want to change the world, but they don't change themselves, and it doesn't work. Same here, we want to be a light unto the nations. I understand that's what the prophet says. But what does that mean? And where does it start? It really begins with the self, with influencing that child, that friend, that person in my office, or that acquaintance in my social network. When I focus on the micro and I make an impact there and I'm a light onto those very people, it creates a ripple effect that goes on and eventually changes the world. So instead of worrying about the world and anti-Semitism in the world, let me worry about my own circle, and let me ensure that I'm an influencer and not an influencee, a light, a true light that shines and not a light that hides. And then change will begin to happen.
So why, as a Jew, do I have to live my life with so many rules? Isn't just having cultural pride enough? And isn't just being a Jew enough if we're born a Jew?
So it depends what you focus on. Yes, there are a lot of rules, but that's not the essence of Judaism. The essence of Judaism is about joy, about life, about passion. And I would say it's almost like a game. I'm going to go back to sports. That's what I love too. And if a game, let's say the football game, basketball game, did not have any rules, it wouldn't be a game to begin with. Judaism has so much life, yet so many focus on just the rules. The rules are ensuring that the game of Judaism, and it's much more than a game, obviously, but the game of Judaism, to use that analogy, is a game. Otherwise, it would be chaotic, it would collapse. And that's what ensured that our game not only survived, but also thrived throughout the generations. You know, there's a phrase that many Jews would say, especially in the previous generation, a phrase in Yiddish that says that schwer zu sein Yid, that it's difficult to be a Jew. I'd rather choose or prefer the phrase that a French philosopher, André Naur, said, that it's not schwer zu sein Yid, it's not difficult to be a Jew, it's a difficult pleasure to be a Jew. Un bonheur difficile d'être juif. It's a difficult pleasure. It depends what we focus on. You can focus on the difficulty, and yes, then Judaism will be overwhelming and maybe even imposing and difficult. But you can focus on the pleasure, and then you'll enjoy the game thoroughly. But if I can add, I think the rules are there also for a reason, not just to ensure that the game is played, but also to ensure that the game is translated into action. Judaism, as opposed to many other religions, is not a religion or faith. I don't even think it's a religion, because if you're not religious, you're still Jewish. But Judaism is not about feelings. It's about actions. I can feel all I want. I can tell my wife all I want. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. But when she asks me to clean the dishes, I say, I love you, but I'm not going to clean the dishes. Then what does my love mean? What is it worth? And that's the point, that the rules really are a translation of our feelings to ensure that indeed our feelings are authentic and are carried out to impact change. Otherwise, again, the game doesn't mean much.
So if being a Jew, let's say, is like this difficult pleasure and this like joy that we feel, but it is difficult, obviously, why would one choose to be Jewish if it's easier to get pleasure and joy from other areas, like other things that make us happy? Why instead are we going through the difficulty of receiving this type of pleasure?
I think it goes back, that's a great question. I think it goes back to what you were speaking about before, being a light unto the nation. Michael Jordan had more responsibilities than maybe others because much more was expected from him. Same with the Jew. Yes, we were given these very heavy, maybe difficult responsibilities, but they are not just responsibilities, they are pleasurable ones. And that is the role we have to play. The essence of a Jew is to impact change upon the entire world. If you want to impact change upon the entire world, you can't just have one or two things to do.
I feel like a lot of times today, for my parents, and I know a lot of my friends' parents, they're worried for us to wear a star and be outwardly Jewish and let the whole world know I'm a Jewish girl. And it's hard for me to explain to them that I'm Jewish and I'm proud and I want to show people that. And it's hard also because when I'm on campus, they're worried that it's probably potentially dangerous for me to be outwardly Jewish. So what would you say to someone's parents who is afraid for them to wear a Magen David on campus?
So in addition to what we said before, I will say that I'll tell you what I tell my children. And then there are two ways to live life. You can be an influencer or you can be an influencee. You can make an impact on the world or you can allow the world to make an impact on you. When you are an influencer, not only are you able then to really pave for yourself a constructive, a meaningful, a purposeful way in life because you have so much purpose in illuminating others, but also you're able to overcome the difficulties of life because you're above them from the get-go. You're an influencer, not an influencee. So really the only way to be a Jew, especially on campus and in places that may be hostile to the Jew, is to be that influencer, to be that shaliach, to make that impact. Leaders know that they'll face opposition. In fact, Albert Einstein famously said that every great leader will face violent opposition. That's the word he uses, violent opposition from mediocre minds. Mediocrity hates excellence. But it doesn't mean that excellence should compromise and become mediocrity. So you need to be that excellent Jew by wearing that Star of David. Everyone's an excellent Jew, but in action too. You have to carry that excellence. And by doing so, not only will you be paving a way for yourself filled with purpose, but you also be able to eventually overcome the hardships, and the mediocre minds will fade in oblivion in the history books of anti-Semites. You, on the other hand, your light will continue to shine forever and ever.
But do you think it would be worth it even if it had a dangerous outcome for wearing it on campus?
Obviously, you have to be mindful and cognizant of your surroundings, and you also don't want to push it in the faces of people, but it is something that we can't shy away from. I will add, my beloved rabbi, I'm going to go back to him, Rabbi Din Steinsaltz of Even Yisrael of blessed memory. He would say that there are two types of Jews. Those that say, I am a Jew, but they say it with melody that sounds like, I have a genetic disease. It's something that I'm carrying, but what can I do? And then there's another type of Jew. The Jew that says, I am a Jew, and they sing it with a melody as if they are saying, I'm a royal prince, I'm a royal princess. That melody is a melody that inspires, regardless of the opposition. It inspires first and foremost the person singing it, and then it inspires its surroundings. We cannot shy away from that melody. We should be sounding it from mountaintops because that melody, again, inspires more than we can see.
If you could speak to the entire Jewish student body of all universities around the world, what is one message you would give them right now?
That's a great question. I would give you this message, that when you say, I am, make sure to follow that with nothing but an infinite divine soul with endless potential. You know, so often we limit ourselves. In fact, it's fascinating to me that when we have physical diseases, we say, I have the flu, I have COVID. When we have mental diseases, what do we say? I am bipolar, I am schizophrenic. And that's just horrible. Why define yourself by your mental disease? You're much more than that. Do you know that there's no word for am in Hebrew? There's just I. Ani, anochi, I. There's no am. Because you can't really limit that am or that I. Your I is infinite. Your I is a particle of God, in the words of the Tanya, chelek Eloka mimal mamash, a veritable part of God. That is the way you should view yourselves. And with that, you'll be empowered indeed to not only live divine lives, but also to make this world a better and more divine place.